Hi, good evening, everyone. We've talked about Arbed many times before. I've talked about it with councillors. That is the latest news report from ITV News. It wasn't just on Welsh News, it was on the national news as well. Um, and we're going to have somebody join us today, one of the ladies in the report. I'm becoming a bit of a media star because she seems to be in all the reports on it. I'm going to bring in now Rhiannon Goodalll. Good
Hi.
evening, Rhiannon. How are you?
All right, thanks. How are you?
Not too bad. You seem to be in all these media reports we've seen. Back in April, you were in one before, you were in previous ones as well when it was talked about. But as I said, I've talked with councillors before about what's gone on, and we've looked at it at a political level and things like that. But for you, it's a personal level. So we're going to go through your whole story, and we're going to go from the start. When did you first hear about the Arbed, and was it through BCBC or was it through Green Renewable Wales when it came out?
uh, the first thing I heard about it was I live opposite like a kind of waste ground, and they had set up place over there, and they kind of had like a couple of people knocking doors. So they'd knocked my door and they'd explained that this scheme that they were uh, giving to residents. You didn't have to be, you could be a homeowner. It was fine. Um, and the scheme was that they were going to put the insulation on the outside of the house, and they just made it sound absolutely amazing. That it was going to make your house warmer, it was going to reduce your bills, and they made this scheme to be the all singing, all dancing. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I kind of found out about it then.
Was that BCBC who were knocking the doors, or was it Green Renewable Wales that were doing that? Or
It
can't you
was
remember? Because it's quite a long time ago now.
yeah. I mean, as far as I knew, it was like people from across the road that so they were part of the team that were doing the scheme at the time. So
So you and your partner and decide to go through with this because who wouldn't want to save money on energy bills? Who wouldn't want to make the house warmer, especially for you because you had a young daughter at the time. I believe
yeah,
she was
well,
like 2 years old at the time, was it?
yeah, my daughter was 2 years old. I was actually on my own at the time as well. Um, so it was just me and my daughter. So anything to make her life better, I was
To
all
save
for.
money as well, and to save
Yeah.
money as well. Um, so you had this done. How long was the process before saying yes, I agree to this, to when the work actually started?
It was pretty much immediate. I mean, you said yes on the door. They were there within the next week or so, putting the scaffolding up. It was that quick of a process.
Mm.
Um, it was like so quick as moving on
Yeah.
that you didn't really have time to think about it. So it was
So
pretty, yeah.
you didn't have time to do any of your own like research into what this insulation does, how it does affect, and whether properties are suitable for it or not.
No, because they are at the time they kind of made us think that it was suitable for our homes, and this was the only insulation that was available, and um, we we didn't know any other insulation, but now since then, I found out myself that this insulation isn't supposed to be on a home like mine because I got stone walls,
Yeah.
and the insulation that they've put on the outside of my house is totally wrong for my house. It's supposed to allow my house to breathe, and because this is like a polystyrene insulation, it's not allowing my home to breathe.
No. Because I remember I think it was a similar time that my father, because he lived in Bremennon at the time, and a similar scheme. It wasn't Arbed, it was a similar scheme, but they said because you're on top of a hill and you get a lot of rain, having insulation is not suitable for the house. Now you
Yeah,
live kind of in the valley, and you get a lot of rain up there, and it gets really bitterly cold during the winter. Um,
very.
so it wouldn't have been suitable, regardless of whether it's letting your house breathe or not, because you do get quite horrendous amounts of rain up there, and the temperatures do drop a lot. I'm not an expert in this field, but I just remember from when my father was asked, did he want installation, and they did a check on the house and said, because you're exposed and it gets cold up here in the rain, it's not suitable. So that was a good company who advised correctly. It sounds like the company that advised you, who asked you, do you want this, were just trying to get as many houses in as they could, more people they could. So you've had this work done, and it's been, I'm guessing, a month and a half since the initial said yes to when the work's completed, because it seems that quick that all this was done. How long
Yeah.
was it before you started noticing problems with the house?
Well, because we had a new boiler installed as well, by a firm called Tower Energy. They were the ones that were doing the boilers.
Yeah,
Um, the boiler went wrong immediately. Um, it was like the boiler and the insulation were installed October, November time. December, the boiler had already gone wrong. Um, so it was just problems, and it was just like the house that Jack built. It felt like, everything was just coming in around me. I had mold patches appearing within 6 months. I'd never suffered with damp, and when I first moved into this house, I put a damp course of
yeah,
rising damp course all throughout the exterior walls. That is now just not, it's worthless now, because
yeah.
that's just money
I'm,
down the drain now.
and I'm guessing that was the mortgage company that asked you to do that, because if there's not a damp course, they ask for one to be put in, which
Yeah,
would have solved any damp problem. But be, because what they've done now is causing a damp problem that your damp course can't deal with.
no,
So basically, with by December, you'd had mold appeared on your walls. Your brand new boiler from the same scheme had
company,
gone,
going
well,
wrong.
different company, but it was employed by Green Renewable
They
Wales at
were
the time,
employed by Green Renewables Wales, yeah.
as we found out in the report that came out earlier this year, which I'll bring up later. And so, did you go back to Green Renewable Wales, or did you go to BCBC about the problems?
First off, I tried getting in. Well, I went across the road,
Yeah,
because
they
they
were
were
still
still
there.
there. And I was telling them that all these problems was appearing, and I was having to nag them. It felt like that kind of, I was nagging in an
Yeah,
effect, you know. And they were like, "Oh, it's fine. It's just teething issues. It'll all sort itself out." And but I mean, even the workmanship wasn't that great. It was really substandard. Because the front of my house, I've got like a brick effect, so the insulation couldn't go on the outside, so they brought it on the inside. Well, they put the insulation and the walls right down on top of the carpet. They didn't cut the carpet back. They just put it on top of the carpet. So any damp then that was tracing through from the walls was tracing in through my carpets into the front of the house. So all my bay window, all the front of the house is now was now congregating all this water and damp. And my gas meters in my front of my bay window, that is like completely eroding from all the damp as well, which is a health and safety issue.
yeah.
And their response was like, "Oh, it's fine. It'll sort itself out. It won't be fine. It'll be fine. It'll work itself out now in a couple of months, and then you won't
You
see
won't.
you'll see the benefits, and you won't see any problems."
So basically, they were passing the buck and not taking what you were saying seriously. And I'm guessing other residents at this time were saying pretty much the same thing, that it
Yeah.
wasn't just yourself at this point that was complaining. Um, Now, you you made your complaint to, I'm guessing, Green Renewable Wales, because it was probably them who was set up across the road. When did they first start taking you seriously with that complaint? Because it seems like at the start, in the first year, they think, oh, no, we're not going to bother. Or are they gone by the time you decided to start making serious complaints?
When the serious complaints started coming in, they had gone. And then you're having to try and get. I went to a local councillor at the time who emailed Rhiannon Davis. There was no response. No
No.
response. Then I asked, then we found out that they'd gone into administration and there was no one to contact. And we're all thinking, well, where are we going to go now? You know? So my next step was trading standards. So I contacted trading standards and I've got like emails upon emails. And they went to another company, I believe it, in Bridgend. And one of the directors of this company used to be a director of the Green Renewables Wales with Phil White. So he stepped forward and he said, yes, I'll address some of these issues. And he sent someone out and it looked like, things were going to get sorted. They were going to get fixed. But that person just disappeared and left all the mess behind.
Mm.
And I'm emailing back to Trading Standards. Trade Centre Wales, I don't know what that
They sell substandard cars sometimes.
Yeah. So I'm emailing back to Trading Standards and I'm like, well, what's going on? And they're like, oh, well, we can't help you anymore now because that company have gone into administration. And I'm like, well, what's going on? Like, there's got to be some sort of recourse,
Mm.
So we kind of, me and Richie Humphreys, I think it was, and we got together and we went down to my city council and we sought an appointment with Rhiannon Davis and Chris Elmore. And Richie Humphreys did lose his temper a bit because something that Rhiannon Davis got him off on the wrong foot. So, and,
Very, very understandable.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I had to kind of like calm Richie down and say, like, well, something's got to be done about this. And Chris Elmore, for a while, he did look into it. And we
Yeah.
was having letters back and forth. And we was having updates saying that he'd contacted this person, he'd contacted that person. And then all of a sudden, the letters just stopped. As if he'd been shut down.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
we didn't have
That
anything back again.
Yeah, that initial email, I believe, was Phil John on the 2nd of September 2016 that was sent
Yeah,
to Rhiannon Davis. Was Phil John the councillor at the time that you went to?
it was, yeah.
Not Phil White, the gentleman whose company is responsible for all this? Because he
No.
was your councillor as well, wasn't he?
He'd kind of annoyed some people, to say the least, and people didn't just
trust
didn't
what
trust
he
him
would do
at
for you.
all. No.
It must be hard for yourself and the people of your community. Your councillor, who was elected by the community to represent the interests of the community, was one of the directors of Green Renewable Wales and the sole director of one of the companies that did work on your house. So it must have been, I suppose, a felt feeling of betrayal that this person who's there to serve you has more served themselves in what they've done here. Did you ever speak to Phil White about this?
Many a time.
Yeah.
Many a time. I accosted him over the road a couple of times, and and whenever I seen him before getting in touch with trading standards, and but his response was like, "Oh, the company's wound up now. It's not really my responsibility." And well, yeah, it is.
Yeah,
It's still your responsibility, even though your company's wound up. It doesn't make a blind bit of difference. You've done this work.
yeah. Well, not only that, he was still the councillor in the
So,
cabinet for communities,
yeah,
which this work all came under. He was the councillor for communities in 2013 when the first bids went in for Arbed to get this, and the awarding of the contract to Green Renewable Wales, which was his company. We'll come on to the internal report in BCBC in a bit. But I want to go back to you spoke to Chris Elmore and Hugh Davis. Now, I know for a Freedom of Information request done by Ian Williams, who you've spoken to a lot on Twitter because I've been involved in some of those as
yeah,
well, particularly last year, I think it was. He did an information request for Chris Elmore and Hugh Davis of what they've done. Be fair to Chris Elmore, he did write to the health minister and whoever in Wales and at Westminster and got
yeah,
replies and was communicating back and forth for a while with residents. And it did suddenly stop. But the first correspondence Hugh Davis wrote, not received, because the 2nd of September 2016 was the first one he received, was this year. Was the first time he wrote to Bridgend County Borough Council about anything to do with this Arbed problem. So you've got somebody there who's again elected to represent you, and you've taken your concerns to this person, and they've ignored you and other residents in this time. It's not good enough, but that's here nor there. They're here to represent every member of the community, regardless of party, regardless of what their political beliefs are. You could have totally polar opposite beliefs belief system, but at the end of the day, they're there to represent you. Chris Elmore, yes, he did something. Was it enough? Probably not. But Hugh Davis did absolutely nothing. Um, did you actually ever speak to Hugh at all? Apart from that one time where Mr. Humphreys got a bit angry with him.
yeah. I mean, I seen who were Ranker Davis over on the site. I seen who in the council offices. He even actually knocked my door when they were canvassing last year. And I invited him in, and I said, please come and see what the work have done to my house. So that's possibly when he done that first email, so
Yeah, it was January this year, I believe that first email was. I'm sure Ian, who is watching, I know he's watching because he keeps messaging me, will let us know when that first email was because I haven't actually got them. I was looking for them earlier. I should have asked Ian to send me them. But Hugh Davis was the one they brought on Wales Politics earlier this year to talk about what had gone on. And it's funny that somebody who ignored it for 4 or 5 years was brought on to discuss it. And
yeah,
uh, okay, the next week, Councillor David did go on, and as you said in that in the report, it wasn't. You haven't received an apology. I don't think you said it. I think the reporter said it. Nobody's received an apology from the council. Have you? You haven't at all.
never, never had an apology. I mean, there's been a public apology, um,
Yeah, in a
if you
council
can call it
meeting,
that.
in the council meeting, they stood up and apologised to everybody in the council, and then this person, Phil White, who had stepped down from communities at that point, was rewarded by becoming a governor of my state cop. So, and they did know at the time that he was involved, but yet there was no consequences. So, has it had any? Because we saw the other lady there, you probably met her. I can't remember the name.
Louise,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah. Have you had any health consequences as a result of what's happened?
Um,
Apart from your mental health, obviously, because it's so stressful of what's gone on over the past 9.5, nearly 10 years now.
yeah, I don't know how I'm still saying. I got to be honest. Um, uh, but no, I mean, my husband, my current husband, and I met him after all the insulation had been on the home, and his health has deteriorated. He's on a CPAP machine in the evening, in the night times. He can actually smell the damp through
Yeah, you
his
can.
machine, and I mean that's not good. I have to wash his machine regularly, like and you can actually see the mold in the actual machine,
Yeah.
um, and so he's breathing that in every night, and that's really quite worrying to know the damage that it's doing to his lungs inside.
Yeah.
And
Obviously, you've got a daughter as well who's still in teen years now and developing still. Um, and what effect is that having on her health?
When she was younger, she did suffer a lot with skin conditions. I mean, I can't directly say that it was
No.
caused by the mold and the damp, um, but she still does have, sensitive skin. Um, she have had many an infection, chest infection, throat infection. I mean, but she's breathing in mold and spores and God knows what every day. Um, So, I mean, I've been pretty lucky in some respect. I'm wondering if I'm immune to it now, but after living in it for so long.
Probably find out you got some superpower or something now.
Yeah,
Yeah, we know this mold is a particular problem because on the 1st of December this year, a new law came in for landlords that houses need to be kept mold free. Now, that doesn't concern you because you actually own your own residence. You don't have a landlord to go to say, I've got mold here, you need to sort it. So, in a way, you've been a little bit forgotten again in the situation, and other people across Wales and who are in the same situation have been forgotten again. Um, go back to Hugh David now because he did go on Wales Politics and spoke about what happened. I can't find the clip for the life of me. I've been searching most of the day and I still can't find it. But I remember in that clip he said there's been a failure with Arbed right across Wales. Now, okay, but each council was responsible for their own scheme.
yeah,
So that seemed to me like he was passing the buck onto the failure of Arbed rather than the failure of BCBC doing their due diligence of this company, following their rules and procedures in awarding the contract to this company, and any responsibility beyond that. Um, did you see that when he spoke on the TV? He seemed very nervous to me about speaking on there, and that. Did you actually see that at the time?
yeah. I seen it, and I kind of laughed because it was so insincere. It was just joke. It was a joke.
Yeah.
It was
Uh,
a joke, and I was just in sheer shock, really, that you could have such um what's the word I'm searching for?
no compassion, I suppose it was really
Yeah, no
more.
compassion, because there wasn't any emotion there. He was fumbling for words to say and
Well, if
thinking
you
of
if
what
you
he
looked,
could
he was
say.
actually reading something off his screen because you could see him
Yeah,
looking down and trying to concentrate on the screen and read something off the screen every couple of seconds, and he was still fumbling over a prepared statement. Okay, if you're
yeah,
talking like this, you do stumble because you're trying to think of what to say without being condescending or being wrong or anything like that. But he seemed to have
that's
prepared
exactly
state.
what it was. He was
Yeah,
condescending,
yeah,
but I mean, even with a prepared statement, like you said, he was searching for perhaps not sounding or saying the wrong thing.
Yeah.
like
Um,
locked him into trouble. But he's already in that trouble. I'm sorry. If the council had done the right thing in the very beginning and made sure that the installation was correct, we wouldn't
yeah.
be in this place now.
Yeah. I can't. At the time, he was the deputy leader when this all happened, so I can't really blame him because it was Councillor Melnott was the leader of the council. But in 2015, he became leader of the council, or 2016, 15, 16, around there. So that's what 6, 7 years now, and they've known about this problem 6 months to a year after the initial things were done. That
Yeah.
everybody's houses, there was something wrong, it didn't work the way it was. But now here we are. It will be 10 years this year since you've had the work done. 10 years the year coming since you've had the work done, and I would have expected that before any internal investigation, before any talk about compensation or anything like that, the first priority would be to get your houses sorted. And that has not been the case. And I'm guessing BCBC, even officers or the normal staff, haven't been contacting you on a regular basis to keep you informed or updated on things.
No.
No,
I'd love to say they have, but I am new to Word, not a word.
no.
Um, Even like I've contacted Ranka Davis again, and he sent an email saying that it wasn't really his department, but he would email the Gen Council to see what was going on. And I'm like,
Um,
okay.
as your Senate representative, and this was in a scheme, okay, done through BCBC, but funded by the Senate, and then funded by Westminster. Both himself and Chris Elmore do have a stake in this and that, and they should be doing more. It's not a case of okay, they're late, both Labour, and it's the Labour administration that have really made a mess here. Sometimes you've got to separate yourself from your party and say, we've really messed up, let's get this sorted, and keep banging on until it gets sorted. Because at the end of the day, you are the residents, and it's you who's been affected. BCBC are only getting a bad publicity, which is not much. At the end of the day, your health, your family's health, and other people's health, not just physical but mental health as well, uh, is continuing. And we're here another year, um, 7, 8 months after all this money was announced to do this. And have they given you a date that your house is going to get done?
Nope.
No.
Not,
Have you
not.
heard? Have you heard anything about when they're prepared to do it, apart from in that report where it said it could be up to a year?
Not a word. And I even had an email from the reporter from ITV News who contacted Bridgend Council as well. And not even they had a date of Bridgend Council for the starting of the work. Now,
Now,
if Julie James
I'm,
on,
I'm gonna bring this up now. So before we get to you saying that, I will say not that long ago, BCBC said the hold up was the Welsh government, but we're gonna dispel that myth now with an interview that happened last Sunday on Wales
not
Politics.
Sunday,
So I'm gonna bring that onto the live stream now, and we'll listen to that. This is Julie James, is she the health minister or communities minister? One of
communities
the
are,
things.
yeah.
Communities minister, is responsible for this and for the funding. Here we go. Right. So that was Julie James, who had declared there that the money's already in hand. BCBC already have the money, and work should have already started. But yet, you're still waiting. Oh, hang on. I do apologise. My Facebook character. So you might have heard Graham Norton and Greg Davis for a second. Yeah, so you still haven't heard anything from BCBC saying, yeah, we're going to get this work done.
Not a
So
word.
this is another
Um,
win. No, carry on. Uh,
no, we haven't heard a word. No, nobody have. Not even off any of the local councillors as such, But which is really disappointing because this is being discussed in council meetings. So why are they not
yeah.
updating the residents? Even if it's just to say, oh, we've spoke about this in the previous meeting now, this is where we're at. It should be on the agenda of every meeting.
Mm.
And
It should be. And I know there's a few councillors that watch this who are in charge of scrutiny committees and other committees like that. I do hope it's brought forward to ask why hasn't this been started. I'm guessing BCBC are going to say it hasn't started now is because we're coming to winter and it's not the right time to do it. I'm guessing that's what is going to come out. I personally don't know whether it's not a builder or somebody with that experience would be a better judge than myself. But this didn't have to wait another winter. The money was announced back in March, April, which, funny enough, was coming up to an election. Just before a council election, that all this money was announced. I think it was in total over £3 million to get all this sorted, which is 10 times the amount of the original money that Green Renewable Wales got to create all this, which is again going to come from taxpayers. It will come from taxpayers in two ways because it'll go to there's money coming from the Senedd, which is income tax that they get from Westminster, or our council tax. This is a lot of money that is coming from yourself. You're having to pay for it again yourself through your council tax and things like that. But I assume, because you said in your report in the report earlier, that you're having to use your heating more to keep the damp at bay as much as you can, and this has been going on for 10 years now. Okay, in previous years it may not have been that much of a problem. It may cost you a little bit more in your heating bill, but this year is going to be much worse with the hike in energy prices. Have BCBC said, we'll pay you some extra to cover your extra energy which you're using to keep this at bay? Because I think I know the answer here. I think everybody does. Because we can't get it done before this winter simply because of the timing of the money coming through, and we can't do it during winter. I'm guessing the answer is no, and you're funding that yourself.
yeah.
Have you been offered? I don't know what your situation is, but do you get winter fuel allowance from the council at all? The £200 or 400 this year it was. You do receive that. You
Well, due to my husband's disability, we do get, some help from the council and the government. Um, but in the grand scheme of things, that's not going to go anywhere. Especially when I looked at my meter yesterday and I'd used £10 worth of gas in one day.
yeah.
Um, and I'm thinking to myself, I've had to kind of turn my gas off now because I can't afford to fund that type of,
10 £300 a month. That's
yeah.
a lot of money, and that's just gas, just to
And that's
keep the
just
house
that's
warm.
just gas. Yeah.
Um,
And that was only having my thermostat set at I think it was 17.5. So every time, my thermostat's dropping down to 17.5, the heating's kicking in. I've
Yeah,
had to turn that down now to less than 16 degrees to try and
which
stop
is
it.
actually
Yeah,
below room temperature,
yeah.
which is a few degrees below a comfortable room temperature. Um, so that's obvious. And yes, your husband, you may be getting this winter fuel allowance for your husband, but that's something that other people are entitled to who haven't suffered uh, the catastrophe that you and others have suffered. So effectively, everybody's getting the same as you. I'm not going through the same as you. Um, Now, I have been asked a question on my WhatsApp to ask you: has any cabinet member actually approached you, or any of the other residents you know, in regards to the situation in the last few years? So I'm guessing it would be the community's cabinet member, which was Phil White, which you had to accost him. We heard that. And since then, we've had Richard Young, who I do have a lot of time for. I was with Richard on Coity for a few years. And now it's Councillor John Spanswick. Has any of those three approached out of their own time come to see you rather than you go and cost them?
No, the only councillor I've spoken to in this area is Paul Davis, and
Yeah.
he has, in all fairness, he has tried to, kind of look into things. But because he's Labour, he's going to hit the brick wall as well. He's going to get shut down.
Yeah.
As we know.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just reminded Stuart Baldwin was also communities thing. I'm guessing he didn't approach you as well, like others.
Never.
Um,
I don't
I
even know those councillors, if I'm honest with
no,
you. And I
no,
wouldn't lift him up to me and slap me in the face, but
which is what they're doing for the last 10 years, practically,
yeah,
basically.
exactly.
Um, I did ask Councillor Hugh David when the same day I asked you to come on, and you agreed because I wasn't going to bring him on without you. Because I wanted him to come and sit here and answer your questions, not my questions particularly, but your questions. Because he said he had to apologise he wasn't able to make the meeting. I know I did see that he's been at Heronsbridge School today, and he had a cabinet meeting today as well. But he said he would send a statement. I would like to read that statement, but he hasn't sent one. Uh, so I
Yes.
contacted earlier Councillor Chris Davis, who took over from Phil White, an independent councillor who was elected this time last year. He did send a statement for us on his personal feelings and what people in Cairo have been feeling. So I'll read that out. I feel for the people of the community that have suffered over the years, not only physically but mentally. I have seen the devastation it has caused, and people have had to live with this for years. It's been too long. I hope now we will see justice and the devastation put right. The people of Cairo deserve better. They are good people who are suffering. Councillor Chris Davis. I messaged him today and he got that to me in an hour. He had an extraordinary meeting tonight, so he couldn't be on. Um, it's nice that one councillor does actually reply and give a statement. He's not directly involved with the cabinet, so he can't give on that side because it will be the cabinet, I'm guessing, that decides and then maybe bring forward to a full council vote to get this work started and who's going to do this work. Um, Over this past 9, 10 years, have you sought any legal advice from a solicitor about? I know you can't go after Green Renewable Wales now, but are you able to go after Bridgend County Borough Council because they're the ones that really oversaw this project? It was their failures of awarding this contract, their failures of doing anything for the last so many years. Have you sought any legal advice of what you can do?
Um, in all honesty, no, because that costs money. Um,
Mm,
and I haven't got that type of money anymore to go
no.
seek that kind of legal advice. Um, and to, fight any kind of court case. And that kind of civil litigation. I can't even speak now.
Litigancy.
Yeah,
You can take
litigation. Um, it's going to cost,
uh,
and
Yeah.
Sorry, go
No, no, and the other thing is, it can take years.
on. Yeah,
Um, but that uh, that isn't to get the work done. I'm hoping there is a solicitor out there that can talk to all the residents, because it's a, what they say in America, a class action case, because there's more than one litigant in the group. Because it's not just people who haven't had their houses repaired yet; it's people who have paid out their own pocket to repair their houses, because there are some up there that have done that. Um, but there's health problems, as you said, with your partner now. Your current husband, which sounded like he's not going to be current much longer. So I hope he doesn't see this.
we'll
My
see.
current husband, but my next one is going to be. um, so yes, his health problems, the health problems that your daughter has suffered when she was younger, any mental health problems anybody suffered, that lady, her breathing problems, but also the higher cost of your bills. This was supposed to reduce them, but it's actually increased them. So I do hope there is a solicitor out there that will take this case on a contingency, a fair contingency, that you don't have to pay out any money, that they'll take it back in fees, and it's a fair fee, that they don't take a hell of a lot, because you and the other people have been messed around for far too long. This should have been sorted by now. It should have been sorted within a couple of months of the money being announced back in March and April, but it wasn't.
No.
We accept the fact that you're going to have to live another year, unfortunately, with through a winter, and it's a bitterly cold winter at the moment. I can tell you, I'm down in Kennelly, and the temperature here now is, can't phone update, 1 degree Celsius. So it's going to be much colder in Cairo, because it always is. Because I
Yeah.
because I used to live just over the other side of Cairo in Cummer, and
All
I
right.
know and I know what the weather's like there.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we guess no. We guess no.
yes, uh, if it's going to snow anywhere around this area, it's going to be up Cairo and Cummer, and the Gary Valleys. So it is much colder. Colder. You're spending more on your heating, as you just said. Okay, your electric keeps blowing, as you told us in that report, which
Yeah.
is quite disturbing, because electric blowing doesn't all can actually start fires. And I'm surprised. I'm guessing you've had a surveyor's report done on the work and the things that have gone wrong. Have you had a
The the report was done by Bridgend County Uganda Council, but it was done by an external company,
Yeah,
and things like that they didn't really pick up on. I mean, I can tell them, but I mean,
uh,
they noticed the amount of moisture in that wall,
mm,
um, but they didn't really pick up on electrics being on that very wet wall, um, which is
yeah, and
disturbing in its fact, in itself, and um, I mean, again, if I want a surveyor, I gotta pay for it. And
yeah,
I know
I know,
somebody else that have done that. They've either paid out their own pockets, or have had surveyors come out, and
yeah,
you're talking like about £500 for that, if not
yeah.
more.
Sorry, I think the most disturbing thing is you were talking about your gas meter that's now eroding away. Now, have you called the gas people out to come and see that? Because that is free. If they'll come out and inspect it to make sure it's safe. If it's getting to the
Yeah,
point it's unsafe, they will replace, and they will contact the council, because it's something that it's not caused by you. It's not your fault. You're waiting for this. That maybe the people will get on to the council and say, this is an emergency situation. You're going to cause an explosion at some point. Because the gas meter is eroding away, and gas goes through that meter. It doesn't just stay, unless you've got one of those smart meters. I don't know. Um, but the old style gas meters, the gas flowed through, so it measured how much you were using. So that is very dangerous. Now,
yeah. It's actually
We
been changed 3 times in 10 years.
How many times? Sorry,
3 times.
it's been changed 3 times in 10 years. I'm surprised the gas
Yeah.
company aren't getting fed up with the council not doing this. No. um, One thing I did want to ask you, I see a lot of your posts online because on Facebook and that, and you're very community minded and you're very community focused, especially when it comes to stuff going on around your daughter. Um, did you consider standing for council this time round? Because I think you would have stood a good chance this year with
Um,
everything that's come out and gone on.
I did consider it, but to be honest, it's a lot of work, isn't it? And I'm better. I'm better being the little Jack Russell Terrier nipping at somebody else's toes and telling
Heels.
them what to do rather than fighting
Well,
it.
you could have stood for a political party. I'm guessing not Labour at this point, or as an independent. And a lot of independents are nipping at the heels of the Labour administration to get things done. I know there are people within the council, Ian Williams especially, who's working hard to try and push this and keeping this at the forefront of the council. Um,
I owe a lot
with,
of gratitude to Ian Williams. I really do, for what he's done and his colleagues. I really am thankful to Ian because he's really been the voice that we needed.
I know Ian's still listening. I know Ian's still listening. So he just messaged me again. We're going to talk about um, a little bit about Phil White because it was his company, Renewable Wales. He was the cabinet member who's responsible for delivering this. He didn't go to full council. It looks as by the report that it was him who's awarded this through his officers to his company. And we've talked about how it's disappointing for the actual people he is there to actually represent. It's not as if it was another part of the county, it was actually the area where he represented. Um, he didn't face any consequences throughout this whole process. We know it was known back in 2019 that he was involved. We know it was known sooner by some people, but we know Hugh David knew back in 2019 because in 2018 the former chief executive um, ordered this inquiry and knew that he was involved. Phil White, even in that time when Phil White was involved, he was never suspended. He was never removed from his position of communities cabinet member for communities and let him continue. He actually stepped down when his health got too bad. And even then, on the day of the apology, that Hugh David and others stood up and apologised to the council and supposedly everybody, it's not really to everybody, you're only apologising to council. Unless you physically watch the live stream or the stream afterwards, you're not going to get that apology. And I'm guessing a lot of other residents did. Um, they rewarded him with the position of Governor of my Stec. Now, I'm one that accountability needs to be there, and he wasn't accountable. We know that he's broken the rules and procedures. What's the point of having rules and procedures if somebody breaks them and nothing happens? Broke the council code of conduct as well. Again, audit office said there's nothing we can do. Well, what's the point of having the council code of conduct, which states you have to declare an interest in something you've got a personal interest in, and you must stay away from that. You can't discuss it and that. And if owning a company and awarding it to that company is not personal interest, what is? Um, so it seems that there's not just a local level, even the fact that one of the companies that is linked through Green Renewable Wales, I think it was BSS. Let me just check my report because there was quite a few companies that were involved. Yes, BSS Bridgend um, used a fake VAT number. Now, after the report came out, it was referred to the Welsh Audit Office and referred to the police. And okay, Phil White had passed away at this time. It's not nice for anybody. But There was no action. The police said there's nothing we can do. I'm sure using a fake VAT number is fraud, and why aren't HMRC getting involved? And the audit office was said there's nothing we can do. What It must be disappointing when you've got these elected representatives who do bad or do nothing, and they're not held accountable at the end of the day. It must be so frustrating to you.
It is very frustrating, to say the least. And oh, there's a lot I could say. I mean,
Yeah. Well, feel free to say it here. Say whatever you want. You're covered. There's nothing that you're going to say is untrue or defamatory, because it's only defamation if it's wrong. And nothing we've said here tonight is wrong. Um, so you go ahead and say whatever you want and is on your mind. No filter, no hold back. Okay, you swear if you want. YouTube may strike the video, but I don't care.
no,
If- no,
I will. Yeah, I will compose myself there. I won't bring myself down to their level, shall I say? But no, it is so frustrating. And I mean, over the past couple of years, I've done my own research, and there's a lot of contradiction in who investigated, the person that I was emailing in the council to say that I was part of this Arbed scheme was part of the original committee. Um, there's there was fraud going on. Um, I know a full central heating system was claimed on my house alone, and only a boiler was put in.
yeah,
Now, so yeah, I
well,
had the installation. Yeah, I had the boiler, but I didn't have a full central heating system. So where did the rest of that money go?
yeah, well, we do know from that's going to be Ian again. Uh, yeah, he's talking about QR and Davis anyway. Um, I do know that police in the past have used the Proceeds of Crime Act. They've used it on people who have passed away and taken from the families. I think recently there was this lady, nothing on the scale of Phil White. Her husband was a money launderer and that he'd passed away, and they went after her, and through the Proceeds of Crime Act, took money back. The police could have quite easily gone through the directors of the company, not just Phil White, because there are other directors of Green Renewable Wales. At the end of the day, it's their responsibility, and gone through Proceeds of Crime Act to get some of this money back, to stop public members like yourself, members of the public, and me and other people having to pay through our council tax to get your place fixed. So essentially, you're putting money in the pot to get your own place fixed when it wasn't your fault that caused the problem. Um, it would be nice if there was more accountability, but there seems to be none. It seems to be continuing that I don't think things are done properly. We've got obviously the example of Phil White. We've got more recently Stuart Baldwin being awarded a job that was through his department, that he was a cabinet member anyway, and then interviewed by people who were subordinate to him to be given a job afterwards, and a job that, from all accounts, from his bio on LinkedIn and that, he had no qualifications to do. More recently, with Porthcawl Development, uh, Councillor Neil O'Farr, who is the cabinet member who's in charge of this development and this compulsory purchase order, still contributing on Porthcawl Town Council in meetings and discussing it and even putting motions forward. Now, that is, again, a conflict of interest. I did write to Porthcawl Town Council, and they said, "Oh, take it up with the monitor officer in BCBC." Yeah, but the issue was at Porthcawl that she should have declared an interest there because she's spearheading this project and then commenting on it. Richard Young, who was the community's cabinet member after Phil White, I was on Coity Hire with him. He always declared an interest. He always stayed out of it. The only time he ever did get involved, if we needed to clarify something, and he'd be emailed if something needed to clarify because we were unsure of. But he wouldn't get involved in discussions. He would stay out of discussions and stay out of the vote. He'd even leave the room, as many councillors do. So it's good to see that some do, but some think they can just do what they like. That's why I think yourself would be good to stand next time. Don't be shy, because it's the people who work hard in the community. And people like Lisa Lewis and Paula King and Amanda Williams who do the best work when they become community councillors or county borough councillors, because they're already community minded. They're already working hard within the community, so it's an easy step. And I think I see you a lot um, posting stuff about communities. I think you did more last year. There was a lot more going on because it seemed to be something every day you seem to be doing in the community. And I think you should take that the next step, because I think you'd be good as a county borough council because you have empathy, because you've been there yourself. You know what it feels like for people who aren't getting listened to, who aren't having action on their behalf. Okay, you may get nowhere with doing it, but at least you're trying to do something. You're trying to fight on behalf of your residents. Yes, they'll be frustrated that maybe nothing will happen, but they will always be appreciative of you actually trying on their behalf. And I think you work a lot, and your media profile's going up because you're always on the news in some way or another. At the moment, you and Steve Bledsoe seem to be competing between who's on more, because he was on again on Sunday. Um, yeah, so I think you should seriously consider the next 4 years, or if a position comes up on my Steg Town Council, just to get a bit of thing. It's not as time consuming. It's unpaid, but it's not as time consuming as a county borough councillor. You can do that at your leisure, your pace. So you get a little taste of it and getting work in the community. Because I think it needs people like Chris Davis, who I see posting all the time. Look at this pothole in there. I've reported it. A couple of days later, it's done. Um, do a lot of work for the community, because it should be about the community first. It should always be about the people. That should come first. And I think you're community minded, you're empathetic, you know what people go through because you've been there yourself, and you should seriously consider about it. And if I can help in any way, if you decide to do it, I'm happy to. If it's coming up, delivering leaflets on the doorsteps, if you want to be part of the party, a party will help you. I will still help you. I know members of BCI will still be out there helping you if you needed it, even if you were a member of the party. We're there to help, and that's what BCI and myself are about. We're here to help people. We're not here to get what we want done. It's about what people want done. Okay, we have our ideas and we don't always agree, but we don't force to vote the same way. We don't say that, and they can't understand how we're not a party. We're not a party. We're there to help, especially independent candidates, get people out delivering leaflets. I did it for Stephen Easterbrook during the hottest day of the year this year, delivering leaflets, which they didn't lose any weight, which was unfortunate. Um, we're there to offer legal advice as well, but and that's all we're there for. And all we ask in return, whether it's BCI, whether it's that you just do your best for the community. You don't have to agree with us on anything, but we'll be there to help. And that's what BCI are. And that's what Ian's been trying to do for the last at least a year now, because I remember the Twitter conversations between me and him last, I think it was about July last year, I think it was, on Twitter and that. And Ian's been very passionate and trying to work forward for that. And it's good to have somebody in your corner. And I think you've got more people than you think in your corner. They're not necessarily from my steg or that, but they're councillors, especially in BCI, who are there in your corner. And it sounds like Paul, is it Paul Davis, your
Paul
councillor up there?
Davis.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds like he's in your corner as well. But obviously, he's got to think about party as well, whether he breaks from that um, and just pushes your agenda, which is yours and the other residents' agenda, which is the thing that should be pushed more than anything else. Who cares about whether you look bad or if BCBC look bad? They'll look better for getting this done quickly and getting you sorted and getting the people's lives back on track rather than dragging it out more.
I mean, I have only done this for myself.
Well, no,
Um, I've done this for all the residents that have been done wrong. And, yeah, I'm a part of it, unfortunately. Um, but I have been the kind of face for it, as you could say, and shouting from the rooftops. Um, but someone had to do it. So
yes,
otherwise, nothing is
I,
going to get done, and these people do need to be held to account.
yeah,
So
and I think that is the attitude of a good counsellor. It's something needs to be done, somebody needs to do it, so I'll step up and do it. And that is what Kyra really, really, really needs. Chris Davis has done it. I'm not too sure about Paul Davis. I don't know him that well, but you say he's working hard on your behalf, which is good to hear, and I hope that continues. But I really think you're in the same vein as Amanda Williams and Lisa Lewis. You get a bee in your bonnet and you go after, and you don't stop until you get somewhere. And I think, yeah, you should seriously look, even if it's just town council to start at my stake, looking maybe in 4 years' time, going for the Canterbury Council, because I think you'll have massive support because you've been practically the face of this. Okay, there have been a few other residents, and there's a lot of elderly residents I've noticed that have been affected by this particularly, and it's nice that somebody younger is taking on, I suppose, the stress of talking to the media about it, talking to somebody like me. Okay, I don't have much views on that, viewers or anything, but that's the thing. So seriously consider it because I think you'd be a good counsellor because the people seem to come first in your eyes, regardless of what pressure it's putting on you. Let's the people come first. Last thing before we go off, been on for about an hour. I could talk all night about this, but I think this is my third live stream talking about this now as well. Um, Last thing I want to say is, do you have a message for Hugh David and the Labour led administration about anything? Do you have a final message for them? I'll leave the final word to you on that.
put it politely, pull your finger out, um, and
Oh,
get
we
out
don't like
home.
polite on here. We don't like polite on here. I get more
I'm
viewers the
trying to
more
be polite.
I get more
um,
viewers the more you're upset.
um, I'd love to swear, but I'm not that.
You're not
I,
that type of person.
I'm probably like Gordon Ramsay in real life, but I'll keep the persona. But no, I mean I've been in the presence of Hugh David a few times over the past couple of years, and he's not once even said anything to me. And but even if it's just to give us an apology, that would be a start, and a
Yeah,
start it would be nice as well.
would be nice.
Um, I mean, please don't. Right, I am going to swear.
Go
Bullshit.
for it.
Um, please don't bullshit us and say that
Sorry.
it's
Beep.
it's
I missed that slightly.
it's not the time of the year to be doing this because it was done in this weather. It was started in September. They were still doing it December.
Mm.
So that's no excuse because the builders were working in all types of weathers and it was snowing in the December. So, so
That's so
there's no,
unusual for Cairo.
no, it's not unusual at all.
I know,
But
I know, I know.
there
Um,
is absolutely no excuse for poor workmanship, poor public relations. There is absolutely no excuse at all now for not contacting us. Um, not even do a letter, you know, putting out a public relations email to
Yeah.
say, that they've had the money. Great. Would be more personal. Get in touch with the residents. I think they'd appreciate it.
Just had a thought. If you would be interested in it, and I'm guessing you speak to other residents around there, you've probably got a WhatsApp group. And that. If I was able in January to arrange a public meeting in a local hall, I don't. I'll have to look up what's around there if you can give me some ideas,
Not
and
a problem.
and we'll invite Hugh David, John Swanswick, Hugh Ranker Davis, and Chris Elmore all to come and answer the residents' questions in a setting, and we'll live stream it and see how they do. Put pressure on them, even if that comes out of that meeting. They say in March we're going to be starting doing the house. That would be fantastic.
That would
Even
be
if there's
lovely.
a public apology, if I can get my friends from BCI to help me with this and see if we can arrange something for January, and we'll just keep posting and put pressure on Hugh David and all these others to come to this meeting and speak to residents face to face. Get as many residents that have been affected as we can. They can air their grievances and they can answer questions publicly, and we'll put it on live stream for people to see. But even if I'm guessing you've got the number for ITV News, we'll get them to come down as well so they can report on it. Because something needs to happen before next December. Because I've got a feeling that this we'll still be here talking about this again this time next year. I prefer to have you on this time next year and say, "Is your house warm?" And you go, "Yeah," and I haven't had to put the heating
Looking
on
nice.
much, and I haven't had to put the heating on really. It's nice. There's no mold. That would
I
be
know.
nice.
It's the only time I've taken my dressing gown off to actually look presentable because, it keeps me nice and warm.
I do community council meetings sometimes on Zoom, and I've got my dressing gown on. I have that sometimes. So don't worry about looking presentable. So I'm sure there's going to be a few residents who'd be interested in something like that. So if I work with my BCI colleagues and we can arrange that and we can start then putting public pressure on BCBC to come and actually speak to residents, even if they've already announced when the work date started. What can you expect the timeline to actually be to be completion? Has the due diligence on these new companies that are going to do it been done correctly? Because you don't want a repeat of what's previously happened.
And what are they
So,
going to offer?
um,
It's another thing
yes,
because,
because
you know,
there's you need something that people's health has been affected, and especially this year, your energy bills will be sky high. Um, okay, not everybody's in the same boat because some people have already repaired their property. We can talk about them in the compensation package that should be fully refunded to them, of them having to pay out of their own pocket to get it sorted, or if they've done it through insurance, because I know some could have done it through insurance and get it repaired, their premiums would have gone up, that it's compensated in some way. I think that's the secondary goal here. The primary goal is getting the start date and getting an apology to residents face to face, not just in some council meeting or via a letter or via a YouTube ad or whatever. It should be a public face to face apology where they stand up and they talk to residents. And
like a
they've got
proper
to deal with deal with the residents' anger, because residents are going to be angry and they deserve to be angry, and they've got to sit there and take whatever comes their way because they have failed for the last 6, 7 years under Hugh David to get this sorted. Even this year, when the money was announced, they still haven't started. They still failed another 7, 8 months later. Still nothing's done. And we've had the Minister for Wellbeing say, or communities say that they've got the money. The work should have started now. And she did that on television on Sunday, and it still hasn't started. I'm guessing this is Ian. He might have one final question. Just in case he does. Uh, he's just saying, yeah, he's saying Paul Davis seems to be good. He seems to be fighting your corner in the council, which is good. That you've got confirmation coming from another source that would happily throw Labour under the bus if they weren't doing their work. And he's just said, yeah, residents have been totally ignored throughout this. So I know there's a couple of BCI. I know Ian's done, and I hope you work with me here, Ian, if we can help in some way get this public meeting going, and put pressure on Labour cabinet member, leader, and the MS and MP to come, because I think Hugh Rankin Davis has got a lot of questions to answer. Chris Elmore did try to do something. I'll give him credit for that, but he stopped at some point for we don't know why.
I can
But Hugh,
speculate, but it's
yeah,
isn't it?
I suspect he was told, look, stay out of this. It's nothing to do. We'll deal with it. We don't want any bad press. But they're going to keep getting more and more bad press. So if you know places in Cairo that's easy for the elderly residents who have been affected to get to as well, even if we find some way of transporting them there in our cars just to take them to the meeting. We can get residents to then ask questions. If you could just send me a list of places, and I'll see if I can get some. We can get something going, and I will tell them it will be live streamed, because I think the public need to hear the answers as well, because not every resident will be able to attend because of illness or anything like that, or their age. So they can actually watch it online and maybe even ask questions themselves online. Um, anyway, thank you very much for doing this, Rhiannon. I'll message you over the next couple of days, see if, with the list, and we'll start putting pressure. We'll try and get a meeting as early as we can in January. Um,
No problem.
I think we don't work around them. We say this is the date we booked. You come on this date. If not, we'll have all the residents in there and we'll do a live stream, and every resident's going to slate you. Somebody will turn up though. I'm sure they'll probably send Hugh or Davis to do it. Uh, but I think Hugh David, or at the very least Jane Geddy, the deputy leader, needs to be there at the very, very least. So we'll do that. We'll put pressure on them, because
Good.
next year we want as many of the homes done by winter as we can, as they physically can get done.
They
Okay.
need to start
Any,
ASAP.
yeah, they do need to start as soon as possible. Um, Probably the first week of January would be great, and they could get all the houses done by next winter, and you don't have to put up with walls that are running with water, mold growing on your walls. That you can finally have a Christmas in 10 years that you're not looking at your wall and thinking, "Yeah, there's more mold there." You can just think
No.
about Christmas for once.
Yeah. I mean, what makes me sick is that, they had a business plan and they were putting it forward to the Welsh Government. So they already got the plan in place, was taking the time. And
Yeah,
if they know what contractors are supposed to be doing the work, because they're obviously supposed to go into the plan to the Welsh Government, all this is already in hand. So why are
so
they sitting on the money in Bridgend Council only to gain interest?
yeah, that's what I'm suspecting, that there's interest. And even if they didn't have the money from Welsh Assembly government at the moment, they knew it was coming. They could have funded it themselves. I do know they personally have 10 million of unallocated reserves, which they could have used for this project
Yeah.
for this year while they were waiting on the money. Right, this is it. We've done our due diligence with this company. We can start getting these houses done. Okay, we might not get everyone done before December, but people will see we've got a clear plan and we're moving ahead, even without Welsh Government, and we'll get that money back later. Anyway, thank you very much, Rhiannon, and we'll probably have you on again sometime. Hopefully, the public meeting. That would be fun.
Oh, I'll get
Um,
there. With bells
yeah.
on. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm guessing you'll be front row. I'll probably have you at the front with them, because you're the public face at the moment of this campaign to get it done.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I please seriously consider a town community council for now, or because you have to live within 2.5 miles of the border of a community county. So Llangonoid Middle will still be in your area, in your thing as well. Just think about town community council so you get a feel for it. And I think you'd be a fantastic councillor.
Thank you.
Um, okay, I'll say goodbye now. Stay on for a second, so I'm going to drop you out and because I'm doing an update on a few bits on mate. Thank you, and I'll speak to you very soon, Rhiannon.
No worries. Thanks very much. Take care.
Bye. Bye. Thank you very much to Rhiannon there. Just a few updates. The community councils are starting to come out with their precepts, which are slowly coming out, and I have put a couple. Bridgend Town Council have kept theirs at 0% increase, and so has Coity Higher this year. There are a few more due out. I believe Porthcawl Town Council may come out tomorrow. It was their meeting was delayed last week. It was moved to this week. So hopefully that'll come out soon. And other ones will come out soon. It won't be long before we know what we're going to get from Welsh Government, the councils. So be prepared for a difficult budget that's probably going to see a council tax increase. And apart from that, have a good Christmas, everybody. I'll try and do a few more live streams before Christmas, but we're 12 days to go. We're now on the 12 days of Christmas. So thank you and goodbye, everyone.